So, welcome back to the Tool Shed here at Man Uprising, where I help men rise up in the second half of life. Here's a very simple tool that I use, maybe not on a daily basis, but certainly on a weekly basis, and it's what I call mountain pose. Viktor Frankl, as you know, my teacher and mentor, has a famous saying, you've heard me say it before: between stimulus and response, there is a space. Between things happening to us and us either reacting or responding, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our happiness. In that space, when the guy cuts you off in traffic, when the cashier pisses you off in the grocery store checkout line, when your wife pisses you off when you go home, when your boss pisses you off, or an employee pisses you off, or the world pisses you off, right? Circumstances will piss you off. Shit happens. Stimuli happens. And that's when we need to get into our space. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. We need to expand that space. How do we expand that space? That's what all these tools are about. This one in particular is, I think of literally going into that space. And that space of, I do yoga. So yoga, I'll stand on my mat. If you've done yoga, you know, you stand on your mat. And yoga, by the way, is a warrior art. It wasn't created by some 22-year-old female over at your local yoga studio reading Brene Brown books and talking about, doing juicy poses with micro bends while you drink your, vitamin-infused coconut water, blah, blah, blah. It was a warrior's tradition before he goes into fucking battle. He is afraid. And how does he get unafraid, or how does he move through that fear? He had yoga, and these were postures because his life was going to be on the line. Many of his comrades were not going to be coming home. And in order to do that, you had to have a mountain pose and a mountain of strength to stand on your fucking scary mat out in the world as you're about to go into harm's way. And so what do? We just stand there and we take a deep breath. Mountain pose, you spread your legs just a little bit, it's like a warrior, kind of a fighter stance, but more parallel. Arms down by your side. I'll do this when I'm in line and the person in front of me is fumbling through her change and like, who the hell uses change, and why didn't you have this ready, and I got to get to my next appointment. Mountain pose. And what I'll do, I'll just think about that space between stimulus and response. Try it with me, brothers. Stand in your space. Right, just get solid and firm. How often are we in those situations really like not solid? We're leaning, or we're crouching, or we're tight. So we open up. Right, this is an act of defiance, and it really is. If you find yourself in it with your boss, in it with your client, you're tense, you're tight, just get into a warrior stance. Right, just get grounded. Take a deep breath and get centered. And as you do, feel yourself just grounding into a mat. You don't have to have a mat beneath you. You could be standing right in the line at, again, the grocery store. And now you're anchored on the ground. And now you're taking deep breaths. And just feel, right, almost like a snow globe. Feel the snow, the noise settling down, 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 down. And what I do is I open my hands like this, right? I just put them down. I open it up. You can watch the fist and palm exercise. That's another tool. Take some deep breaths, and I just stand on my mat. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. Here is the space. I'm making space. I'm creating space. I'm expanding that space. I'm about to move out of this space. And when I move out of this space, I will be moving out as a warrior out into the world, taking with it my warrior pose, mountain pose. Mountains are immovable. Right? And that's what it means to rise up in the second half of your life, not to allow the circumstances of the storms swirling here in Colorado around the mountains. The mountains, just take it. They just stand there. The rest of us peons and pishers are scrambling down on earth, getting into our huts and making sure they're warm and all these things because we're scared, and the mountain just stands there regardless of how bad the storms. The mountains were here. They are here. They will be here. A man rising up is here, was here, will be here. Even if he's physically no longer going to be here, he knows that mountain-like living instills in the people around him and the people who come after him a sense of certainty and security, that when they think about him, they think about their dad, they think about their brother, their son, their friend, as a mountain of a man. Do you want to be tossed about like the leaves outside my window The winds take it that way. The circumstances take it this. Do you want to be that man? Or do you want to be that man going into the arena, into the war, into your second half of life and whatever it brings? And trust me, brother, it's going to bring some deep and dark and heavy shit. What kind of man shows up? Is he the kind of man that is knocked down, that is blown around, or is he the kind of man that stands his ground, that gets centered on his mat, that brings his breath back into rhythm, choosing his response to his circumstances, choosing his response, choosing your response to your life? That's mountain pose. Go out there in the world, defy your number, live your spirit by standing like a mountain in whatever circumstances life brings your way. And with that, I will see you in the next video. That is our tool for the day. We'd love to hear from you and how you use these tools. Feel free to chime in our community, write some notes below, and share with other brothers how mountain pose has helped you rise up in your life.